Welcome to At Home with Peggy. And at home with me today, I have a very special guest. This is Gordonetta, and she's lived at Blooming Acres for about 2 years. And she is a delightful, friendly little hen. She is a barred rock. And the reason that I would bring her in at this time of year is she's beginning to get more active out in the coop. As the days get longer, the chickens will lay more eggs. But Gordonetta is not a spring chicken. And she's been around, and her egg-laying capacity, as with all of her friends out there, is going down. So it's the time of year when we want to order baby chicks, which is a really exciting and fun thing to do. And there's a wonderful catalog company called Murray McMurray, and they're out of Iowa, and they specialize in exotic breeds of chickens, all kinds of interesting ones. Now, Gordonetta here is a barred rock, which is not a particularly exciting variety, but she's very even-tempered and she lays good quality eggs, and she's good for other things. She's good for other things too, but we don't want to talk about that. And since we have a very strong philosophy here at Blooming Acres that we don't eat our friends. But she's very sweet, and we're going to get more chickens. And we will probably get a few more of these barred rocks because they are so friendly and they're easy to manage. One of the really interesting things about the catalog that they've added this year, which is a great benefit, is that they now are including pictures of the chicks. Because when you order all these chickens and they come in a box, they do not look anything like the plumage of an adult hen. So it's very difficult to tell them apart. Now, the minimum number of chickens that you can order is 25, which may be more than I actually want. So I will often share an order with a friend. As a result of that, you have to be able to tell one baby chick from the next. So with the pictures in the catalog, we'll be able to do that. You may wonder how chickens get shipped in the mail, but actually it's the day-old chicks. As soon as they're hatched, they get put in a box with at least 24 friends. That way they can stay warm, and they're shipped very quickly. But what's really interesting is 2 pieces of information. One is, while they're all crammed in a small box, remember they just got out of an egg, so they feel like they've got tons of room. The other thing is, right before they hatch out, they swallow all of what's left with the yolk. And that allows them to survive without food and water quite comfortably for up to 3 days. Now, usually they arrive the next day, so it's not a problem. And I can honestly say I have never opened a box and found an unhealthy baby chick. Also, if you're really interested in chickens and are not particularly interested in having the baby chicks arrive on their own, there's this wonderful book that I've just been fascinated with called The Complete Chicken. And in it is beautiful artwork, stories about chickens that have been trained, the history of different breeds, and even some modern-day chickens that have made it into the cartoons. So chickens are big time around here, and they lead to eggs. So I certainly want you to stay with us when you see what we do with some fabulous eggs. Well, I took Gordonetta back out to the barn because I didn't want her to get an inferiority complex. She lays very nice eggs, but they're on the simple side. Nothing compared to these fabulous Ukrainian eggs. They're so detailed and so gorgeous. They're like individual masterpieces. And the artist that does this fantastic work is sitting right next to me. And this is Trish Nurko-Ulick. And just looking at them make me nervous. How do you do this?
Well, I have a series of tools that I use to create a pattern in wax on the egg, dye it in successive colors.
Oh, is that like batiking a little bit? I mean, sort of a similar
A little
idea?
bit.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do use wax almost like batiking would use.
And the series of dyes.
And the series of dyes.
Okay, I relate to that. Okay.
Usually I start with just a plain chicken egg that you can get from the grocery.
What chicken laid that?
Well, those are goose eggs.
Okay, that's
And this one up here actually is a duck egg.
And there's a little tiny one. Can we get that one out? Because that's
Sure.
really cute.
This one is a quail egg.
And the work on that is so tiny and detailed. It must be harder to do the smaller eggs.
It is a little bit more difficult, but since there's tools that come in different sizes, it makes it easier to work on something that's a little bit smaller.
Now, is there still an egg in there?
No, actually these are blown. I usually empty the contents because it makes them keep a little bit longer. There's no risk in them
Getting
exploding in
smelly
the
and-
summertime.
yeah. Okay, that's a
with
good
the
thing to
heat.
know. And what about that egg? Is that a real egg, or has that been emptied out already?
This one is a real chicken egg. It still has its contents. I usually work with them full. Makes them easier to handle when you go to dye them because they'll sink in the dye. You don't have to weigh them down.
Are they less likely to break, too, when they're full?
I think they are when I'm working with them, but you also run the risk that during the last step when you do empty the contents that you could break them then.
Oh, and then you break them and all the work you've done is gone.
Right.
So it's sort of choose your poison.
Right.
Right, okay.
So I usually go to the grocery store. I'll buy a dozen eggs or so. I bring them home, and I usually put them up in front of a bright light. What that allows me to do is check the shell for any defects that might be in it, some cracks.
So you actually candle them?
Right.
Wow, okay. But you're not looking for babies. You're just
No.
looking for shell quality.
Just looking
Okay.
for shell quality.
And the candle gives enough light that you can actually sort of see through them?
Either you can use a candle or you can just use a strong lamp,
Okay.
light bulb, and you'll be able to see. In fact, on this one, I don't know if it'll show up on camera or not, you can kind of see what look like little dots. They're actually weak spots that are in the shell.
So there isn't enough shell in that spot, or the chicken got lazy or didn't have enough to eat that day or something like that?
That could be it. What we have found is that if I can get eggs that were laid by free-range chickens, the shells tend to be of a harder and more consistent quality. I'll get them all nice and washed and dried, and then I determine what I want to put on it.
And how, you have patterns, ideas? Do you do it freehand? You have stencils? Tell me, how do you go from this to that to that? It's amazing.
A little bit of both. I have books that I can use to see if maybe there's a pattern there that I want to try. Sometimes you start with a pattern and in the middle of the process it ends up changing. It kind of becomes your own design. What I'll end up doing is I'll take the egg. Again, these just happen to be blown, but I'll take an egg, and I'll sit it in front of me, and I'll kind of look at the shape. Some of them might be longer and narrower, some of them might be short and kind of wider, and decide what type of pattern might look best on the egg.
This is the first step, right?
Right.
How do you get the lines all so straight?
There's a couple ways you can do it. There's some templates that you can use. You can see these come in different sizes, and depending on how large the opening is, you can slide it down over the egg, so you might be able to get the middle line.
Do that again. So they line up with these little marks line up with the lines that you draw on there?
They can. I tend to work this pattern, I can do freehand.
You can do that freehand?
Yes.
How long did it take you to get good enough to be able to do that freehand?
I've probably been doing eggs since I was about 5 or 6. Mom did teach me how to do the art. She is 100% self-taught. She picked up a couple of books after she married my father and had seen the eggs.
And he's Ukrainian and she's not, is that
Correct.
right? Wow, was he impressed?
I think so.
You think so?
I
Yeah,
think
it was a
so.
good thing to do? Okay.
I think it was a good thing to do. And she just picked up a couple of books, kind of read up on it, and just started trying and kind of
So
experimenting.
books exist, that
Books
if
do
somebody
exist.
wanted to, if they were intrigued by watching what you do, if they wanted to step-by-step, there are books out there that exist.
There are books and supplies available at most of the local craft stores now.
Oh, really? Okay, so this is not like a deep, dark secret. It's readily available even if it's not common.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, they're always available on the internet. Once I have the egg, I determine the pattern. If I need some sort of guideline, I might use one of the templates or rubber bands. And I'll just slide the rubber band over the egg, put it where I want it.
Is that a pencil? The line's made with a pencil?
And the line can, your guideline would be made with a pencil. So if you're not ready to work freehand, you can do very, very faint pencil lines. You don't want to do them too dark because some of the dye colors won't cover them. This is called a kistka. It acts as like a writing tool. It's a small metal funnel on the end with a larger opening at the top. It's a colored beeswax.
Okay.
If you use non-colored beeswax, it's a little bit harder to see on the egg.
Oh, okay.
The way you can color a chunk of beeswax like this is you put it in the flame of the candle and you actually get carbon on it.
Is that what that is? That little black there
Right,
is from?
that's what the black is.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll choose the proper tool for the thickness of line that I want to apply to the egg. Once I have determined which tool that is, I'll make sure there's enough wax in the funnel on the end, and I use the flame of a candle.
To melt the wax so it's liquid?
Right,
Okay.
to heat the wax up.
So what we're looking at here, correct me if I'm wrong, are more traditional patterns?
Some of them are traditional.
Show me one you created yourself, or are they bits and pieces of?
Most of them are bits and pieces. You can find a pattern in a book, but maybe you don't like something that's on the egg. Or you have a hard time with a particular pattern. Maybe curls might be more
Hard
difficult
for
to
you,
do,
right.
something with circles. So you might change the pattern slightly according to your ability.
And the colors, you can do the colors any way
You can do
want?
the colors any way you want. This would be considered a non-traditional.
That doesn't look traditional.
It
This one
doesn't.
doesn't look real traditional either, or is that my imagination?
Actually, that one is a bit of a traditional
Really?
pattern. The colors might be
It has
considered a
fish
little
on it.
non-traditional.
They look like fish.
They are fish.
They are fish. Can I show them?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, it makes me nervous even picking them up. But can you see the little tiny fish there? They look like they're swimming upstream. Is that what they're supposed to be doing, or is that just my vivid imagination taking over?
It could be. Most of the patterns have some sort of symbolism behind them. So the same thing with the colors. So you might want to create an egg that has fish on it because fish are important to you or someone in your family.
Now, these are Easter eggs, but you were telling me that this is not only an Easter tradition.
No.
It goes back like forever.
Ukrainian eggs were started about 4000 BC. So they've been around an awful long time.
A lot longer than Easter's been around.
Yes.
So you can pick up this tradition just as a pure art form and has no connection to Easter whatsoever if that's what you choose.
That's right. Typically, though, they are done in the springtime around Easter.
For the rebirth of life and spring, right?
That's
Isn't that
right.
the pagan part?
That is the
That's a
pagan
good
part.
That's a good part. Now this is step one. Is that step two?
That one is step two. So what I ended up doing was I did an initial pattern with my tool across the egg, and I decided that the next color I wanted to do was yellow. So I took the egg and I dipped it into yellow dye, and I got this. And you can see the difference between the two eggs in pattern was that I added,
We added a crisscross.
right, on the egg.
And that one stays yellow.
That one stays yellow. Wherever I apply wax, at the end of the process, whatever's underneath that wax will be that color.
And then you took that egg and dyed it in.
Red. And now you can see I've added
So the
another cross.
one that you added is very bright yellow.
You can actually sometimes see what color it is underneath the wax because the layer of wax is so thin.
And
you
wax-
sometimes get a little taste of what it's going to look like at
Do
the
you
end
get
of the process.
excited?
Yeah.
You did, okay.
Depending on the complexity of the egg and
then-
difficulty of the pattern, it can be really exciting before you ever get to the final
This is
step.
the third line, right? That's
That's
going
right.
across. And then what color did you dip it in?
The final color, which was black, this one's kind of jumping the gun a little, but when you dip it into the final color, there's no need to put more wax on the egg
When you're done.
when you're done.
So then you take the wax
So
off.
then I take the wax off, and this is the final product after I took the wax off.
And how do you take the wax off?
Again, I use the flame of the candle. I put it towards the side. If you put it towards the top, you'll get carbon all over it.
And that'll ruin it.
And it will ruin
There's
it.
a lot of things that can ruin this along the way. That would make me very nervous.
But that's the excitement of the art.
Okay.
So
And so this one's done.
this one is done. Once I took the wax off of it, I actually put a coat of varnish on it. It helps give a little bit more strength to the shell, makes it very, very shiny, and it gives it this nice glossy appearance.
How long does it take to do each egg?
Depends on the number of colors and the difficulty of the pattern. Something like this was probably about an hour to work with.
And what's this little funky thing here?
Well, when I go to put the varnish on, I want to make sure that it's not sitting on a hard surface or it might stick. This drawing board was actually made by a friend of the family, and it allows me to set the egg on top of the nail heads and allow it to dry.
And there you go. Well, these are just absolutely gorgeous. Is there anything that we left out? Did we cover all the details?
Well, I did mention about the patterns if you wanted to talk about patterns and colors for a little bit.
Okay.
some of the patterns that you can see here. This is called a 40 triangle. There's actually 40 triangles on there. And that the 40 triangles symbolize the 40 days of Lent.
Okay.
So obviously
But
that's
this
not
one-
a pagan egg.
No, definitely not. But it looks so different than the others.
It does. The colors on there would be considered non-traditional.
Could you do this in more traditional colors, and then it would be considered a more traditional egg? So it's the colors that make this one not traditional as opposed to the pattern.
Right. There is some symbolism behind the colors too, with the purples or pinks.
That it's my favorite color? Does that have something to do with it?
That's true, but usually yellow symbolizes happiness. Orange is strength, just like you would think of the sun
Being
coming
strong.
down, being very strong. Black is considered eternity, white purity. So some of the other patterns that you can see on the
This
eggs
is a
might be-
bird.
That is a bird. Birds symbolize fertility.
Okay.
They're the egg layers. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now of all of these, tell me which is your favorite?
I'd have to say the goose eggs.
The goose eggs.
They took the most amount of time. I've actually had them, of all the ones that are on the display here, I've had these the longest also.
Well, they're gorgeous. I would have to say this one is my favorite. Am I allowed to say that?
You
This
can say
one
that.
is my favorite. And it's just amazing how beautiful they all are. And I really want to thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And here, this one is for you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, and happy Easter and happy spring and happy pagan, whatever it is you're going to celebrate. Enjoy the egg. Now here's a dessert that's really easy to make and is going to appeal to both the chocolate lover in you as well as the person concerned about eating healthy. It's a combination of chocolate and bananas, and we all know how good for you bananas are. So we're going to start out with some nice ripe bananas, not overly ripe. Here we go, this looks like a perfect banana. And we're going to slice it up until the bowl is full of bananas. And we're going to take a package of chocolate, milk chocolate, and some milk, and we're going to make sort of a chocolatey sauce. We're going to add to that some raisins and cook it until the raisins are nice and soft, and add just a little bit of cherry pie filling on top. So let's get the chocolate started over here, and while that's cooking, we can finish up with cutting the bananas. All right, we'll dump this right in the pan. And, you know, I think one package of chocolate's going to be enough. This is a nice Ghirardelli milk chocolate, which, boy, these are really good. You gotta not eat the chocolates while you're doing this, okay? All right, and here's something new I've never actually used before. These are called baking raisins, and they're very soft, so I think they'll be even better. Sometimes the dried raisins are just a little too dried to have them as a part of the dessert. So let's open this up. Okay, and we're going to turn this stove on here. And we're going to add a little milk. Now remember, you don't want the flame too high. And we'll just stir this until it's nice and creamy, and then we will add the raisins. So when I get this all cooked down into a nice sauce, I'll show you what it looks like on top of the bananas. Okay, that's a nice creamy chocolate sauce. The raisins are in there. And we're going to pour this on top of the bananas. Now, I think it's a general good rule of thumb, figure 1 banana per person. And yeah, I was right, that was plenty of chocolate. Look at that. Now I'm going to mix it all up. So the bananas are completely covered and the raisins are all mixed in. Oh, that is so good. Okay, that takes care of that. And then we will spoon a few cherries on top, make it look pretty. Add some color, little cherry flavoring. You don't want too many cherries, just a little for both color and flavor. We'll use some of the cherry sauce here. And you will not believe how delicious this is. And of course, you're supposed to eat a banana every day anyway. No one said you couldn't cover it in chocolate. Enjoy. I have with me my good friend John from JCS Home Improvements. He's been with me on a number of these home renovation projects, and this is the most recent one. John, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing all this.
Thanks for having me here.
This bathroom was really ugly and really pathetic, and probably the thing I hated most about my house. It actually looked better when it was completely naked, down to the bare walls, than it did the way it was before. But now we're sort of in the middle. And tell me, what's this funky green? The green's not my favorite color.
Well, green is a moisture-resistant sheetrock. It will help. It's very good in bathrooms because it does help a little bit if it does get wet.
So this isn't a decorating feature. This is highly functional.
No.
Okay, thank goodness. This is not my favorite color. But we kind of blend in over to the even more lovely shade of gray. What is that for?
Well, the gray is a cement backer board for tile, which is impervious to water.
So it's cement, it's not
Yes.
like, it's not
It's
sheetrock
not
of
a
any
sheetrock
kind?
product. No,
So if it leaks around the edges,
it will not bother it in the least.
is this any harder to put up than regular old sheetrock?
Yes, because it's more difficult to cut. It's more difficult to screw up. The screws are much harder to go in and make sure that they sink and set properly.
But
than
it's
it
worth
is.
it in the long haul.
Definitely worth it in the long haul.
Okay, my favorite part, my favorite part.
The Skylight.
The skylight. You're opening up a hole in the ceiling to put in the exhaust fan and the heater, and I said, you know, the roof is right there, can we? And John, in his infinite goodness, decided to accommodate my whim, and now I have a skylight. But it doesn't open, why not?
Well, we're a little too close to the standpipes for the bathroom, which are the pipes that emit the odors from the toilet and other various things.
So there's rules that affect everything.
Yes.
So we can't have fresh air through that, but we get light.
Light.
Lots of light.
Yes.
And we have that other old window that opens for fresh air.
Yes.
And we have this thing. What does this thing do? Well, it has lots of features. What does this do?
This is our 4-function fan, exhaust fan, heater, light, and night light combination.
So everything you could possibly use is going to be up there. Okay,
Yes.
so here's going to go the potty, and over here is going to go the sink and the vanity, and I want to show you what we're going to do with that. And there, a built-in gigantic medicine chest. I can't wait. Now, can you work on the vanity for me? You think
Yes.
we can do that? All right, let's show everybody what we're going to do.
Okay. Let's show them.
Okay, John, I picked this up for $25 at a garage sale. It's probably, I would say, 1920s, late 20s, something like that. It's not real fancy. I'm going to paint it. I'm going to crackle paint it. Dark blue in the background with a matching white on top to match the tile and the fixtures that are going to go in there.
Yes.
But you've got to take it from a dresser to a vanity. Are you going to be able to do that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What about this thing? Can we get rid of this?
First, we'll remove the top because we have a new top with a sink molded into
That's
it.
going to match all the colors?
Yep.
Okay.
Then we're going to take the drawers out. We may cut this down and make narrow drawers on each side, and you'll pull the center out, and it'll be 2 drawers.
That'll go around the plumbing,
Yes.
basically? Well, what about tilting this forward, doing a tilty thing like you have in the kitchen so you could put like your toothpaste?
That is another
That's
option
another
as well.
So you'll see what works best?
Going to see which works
It's
best.
also a little high. My kids won't be able to reach it. Can we do anything about that?
Sure, we can make a little step stool for them.
No, come on. Can't we lower it a little bit? Look at the feet. See,
Yes.
they're kind of ugly. So we
We're
can get
gonna-
rid of this?
Cut this off over here, which will lower it a couple of inches, and then that will get us down to a more suitable height for a bathroom vanity.
Okay, and then the mirror will go on the back?
Yes.
And you'll put the top on with the sink?
Yes.
And we're going to be all set to go?
Yes.
And it's going to be gorgeous?
Absolutely.
You promise?
Promise.
Okay. Now, anybody that wants to get John to help them make their bathroom or the rest of their house gorgeous can reach you how?
You can call me at 888-0221.
And John from
JCS
JCS.
Home Improvement.
He's a godsend, believe me. Okay, well, thanks, and I will show this all done next time. You've got to take it home, and then you'll bring it back, and I'll crackle paint it, and we'll show how I'm going to crackle paint it with the colors, and the bathroom's going to be spectacular, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for joining us, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, this does not really make me very happy. This is a crepe myrtle, which is only borderline hardy in central Jersey. After the tough winter we've had, I'm afraid that there has been some serious winter damage. Now you can see on here, these are the old flower pods from last year. And I like to leave them on. I think they're kind of attractive and they look particularly lovely when they're dusted with snow. But unfortunately, a lot of damage has been done and a lot of this wood is dead. So we have to do some pretty serious pruning and prune back to nice, healthy wood. In addition, you'll notice that this particular one is significantly larger than its twin on the opposite side of the steps. And the reason for that is in this position, the crepe myrtle is protected from the north wind on this side and exposed to the beautiful blazing sun on the south side. So even though they were put in, they were identical in size. It's close to twice the size of the other one because this one usually suffers significantly less winter dieback. But not this year. I'm just not sure how far we're going to have to cut. But one of the things that you want to do is cut back all the dead wood, and this is clearly dead, and you want to thin it out. Now the ideal growth habit of this particular tree is very vase-like, and you want it to grow up and out. And it has a beautiful shape when mature. So you want to make sure that branches growing towards the center are removed and crossing branches, as well as, of course, all the dead branches. So you can see that all the dead flowers need to come off. And whoa, that's green inside. That's a good sign. That is definitely green, so it has not died back completely, and there is hope. Now, one of the best parts of this is that crepe myrtles bloom on new growth. So on the first warm day, you can go out and prune your crepe myrtle back. The further you have to prune it, of course, the longer it will take to produce flowers. But it will produce flowers anyway, just as long as it's alive. Sometimes it will even die all the way to the ground, and then it will come up like a bush. So keep your fingers crossed. The odds are in your favor, but you are going to have to do some serious remedial pruning. So let's get going. Well, spring has really sprung here at Blooming Acres. We've got pretty little crocus in full bloom and this pretty yellow winter blooming jasmine just covered in flowers. All kinds of things are happening at Blooming Acres at this time of year, so make sure you join us next time at Home with Pegi.